On this special edition of Thurston County Connection, we have all three of our county commissioners with us for a roundtable discussion. We want to welcome the commissioners and welcome to all of you watching. I'm your host today, Deb Vinsel. Just one housekeeping rule before we jump into our discussion. There's no official business being conducted today. The commissioners do encourage everyone watching to participate in their board meetings and work sessions by watching live on the Thurston County YouTube channel, attending in person, calling in, or connecting via video conference. The meetings are also available on TCTV Channel 3. So we're going to start our discussion, and we're going to start with Commissioner Mejia first, the newest member of the County Commission. So just to get to know you a little bit, we'd like to know, what was your first job? And did you learn a skill in that job that you use today?
Yes, well, thank you for that question. My first job was actually as an interpreter. I used to interpret at schools and at clinics. And one valuable skill that taught me was listening and hearing to what people were saying. And I think it's a skill that's really well needed today.
Cool. Commissioner Edwards, so your cowboy hat is one of the most notable features about your wardrobe. People see that hat and they know who that is. But if you couldn't wear that hat, what hat would you wear and why?
Well, just so happens I brought my other ball cap.
Okay.
And first of all, I actually need a hat. So especially in the winter months. But in all my years in law enforcement, we often had hats as part of our uniform. And when I was elected sheriff, I just didn't want to wear a dark colored hat. So this is the hat that I thought I'd wear with my uniform. And I did for that 20-year period. And it became kind of a mantra, if you will. And then nobody recognized me without it, basically. That's about how it boils down to. But if I took this hat off, because I couldn't wear it for one reason or another, but I could wear a hat, I would wear my military veterans hat from the United States Army, because actually I was in the United States Army more than 50 years ago. I kind of hesitate to say that, but so quite some time ago, and I am a big advocate for veterans. And probably the biggest thing is, without the sacrifices of veterans and their families, none of us would be here enjoying the freedoms we enjoy today.
Well, thank you for your long public service in the military and as an elected official. So it is a different look for you, I will say, though. If I saw that profile, I wouldn't.
Okay,
I'm not sure I'd know who it was.
What do you think? Oh, huh?
Okay. Okay, you might just tip that back a smidge so we can see your eyes.
Okay, there you go.
Thanks. So we know it's either the cowboy hat or the military services hat. So thank you for that. Commissioner Menser, it's your turn. We know that you play the banjo with a bluegrass band locally called the Ole Mountain Boys. But as a county commissioner, do you have as much time to put toward playing the banjo as you used to?
Well, 2020, one of the disappointments for me personally is that in 2018, up to 2018, I played a lot. 2018, I was campaigning for office and working as an attorney, and I had really no time to play. 2019, I was getting my feet on the ground and learning about this job, and we were transitioning a new band member in, so I didn't have as much time, but we were really geared up for a big 2020, and then COVID-19 happened, and it's pretty much interrupted. So it feels like a long time since I was playing out like I used to pre-2018. But we still have that plan. Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be back out there playing bluegrass for the community again.
No virtual bluegrass concerts?
No, we did a recording project before the pandemic, and then when things shut down, we spent time with our music working on that, and we got a CD released in September. So that was something musical, but we weren't able to go out and we pretty much sell it by playing shows.
Right.
So it's basically sitting in my garage.
So, well, we hope you can get back to your music in the near future. But you mentioned 2020. We all know that 2020 was a really challenging year. And 2021 is a little challenging too, but it has required the advent of the pandemic. When that hit, it really required a lot of adjustment for everybody, including the county and how the county functions. So what's the one thing you think that you did in response as elected officials in response to the pandemic that you're particularly proud of? And for Carolina, as the newest member, I would say, what one thing are you looking forward to being able to do in response to how this pandemic has shaped our county? So since we started with you first last time around, how about I start with you, Commissioner Edwards, and then we'll go this direction, okay?
Sure. I really do believe that one of the big accomplishments, if you will, is the community involvement, that we all got together as a commission and made decisions on where some of our CARE money, that was the money that came from the federal government to help us get through this problem. And we certainly could not have done it alone. And so we brought in many, many community groups and individuals that really pulled that all together, and I think made it bearable. I'm not saying that we fixed it, but I do believe we made it bearable in an adverse situation to those folks that there but the grace of God go I. A lot of people were struggling and still are.
Yeah. Ty, you want to jump in on this?
Sure, I'll pick up on something specific. I'm a former public defender in my legal career, and I have a particular interest in criminal justice process and issues. And so the pandemic required us to change our booking procedures in the jail, and the way the prosecutor was going about charging certain low-level crimes. We didn't have the social distancing capability in the jail to have a full jail. So we adopted some practices, and this is the sheriff's office, the corrections, and prosecutor. And I'm hopeful that as we move out of the pandemic, we can sort of capitalize on some of that, because I don't think crime has spiked in the community. You know, we won't do things exactly the way we're doing them now, but I think we can transition toward a model where we're relying less on incarceration and more on alternatives. The county commissioners supported that by hiring 2 new pretrial service diversion officers to deal specifically with this backlog of cases, because the courts haven't been able to do jury trials because of the pandemic. So it's created this backlog of cases. The pretrial services hires are permanent, and I'm hoping that as we transition out of the pandemic, we use some of the things we learned to create better justice policy.
Okay. Carolina, is there something you'd like to add to this moving forward?
Yes, moving forward. I mean, even I worked for the county before this, and I was there throughout the whole COVID. And from the court's perspective, I was really proud about how the courts were able to move forward and make the hearings more accessible, make sure that we had new programs installed that would make people want to participate more or be able to participate. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is, you know, COVID taught us a lot about how to move forward, especially with things that we didn't know were possible. One of those things is teleworking. We're able to telework in a bigger capacity than we ever thought before. And so it's one of the things that I'm looking forward to implementing long term in the county.
Okay. So what are you hopeful for in 2021? So I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Menzer.
Well, a couple of things. I mean, obviously, I think we would all say we're hopeful that we'll turn the corner on the pandemic and life will return to a degree of normalcy. I mean, I have 2 kids, I have 2 school children, my wife's a teacher. I'd like to play bluegrass again, etc. Local businesses. I'm also looking forward, though, in 2021 to kind of a different tone in the nation. You know, with the change of the administration, I'm hoping that, you know, Democrats and Republicans in Washington State talk to each other civilly about issues. I don't feel that always happens in the other Washington, and I'm hoping that we'll see more of a science-based, fact-based, forward-thinking discourse in Washington, D.C., and kind of it'll have a ripple effect across the nation and all the way down here to Thurston County.
We can cross our fingers for some kind of normalcy in 2021. Commissioner Mejia, you mentioned teleworking is something you'd like to see go forward. What other things are you hopeful for in 2021?
I mean, just for me, this is a learning year. It's honestly a year to try to build partnerships. I campaigned virtually, and now I'm on virtually. I'm hoping I can actually get to talk to the people I've met over Zoom in person, but that's just my my selfish hope. But other than that, I mean, it's just continue to build partnerships with the community. We see what we can do once we're unified and we're all working together, and just try to keep building on that.
Yeah. I think it is not a selfish hope to want to be able to be face-to-face with folks. So, I mean, as you can see, I mean, we're here, as our viewers can see, and we're spread so far apart with masks on because of this, which is a very unusual situation for us. So I don't think that's a selfish hope at all. I hope that too. Commissioner Edwards, what are you hopeful for in 2021?
Well, to expand on what my seatmates have said, and maybe one other thing I'd like to mention. Commissioner Menser and myself have been through this, but I have to say, Commissioner Mejia has really, she's going to be exposed to this 2 years that flew by for us, and it's like drinking out of the fire hose, the amount of information that we're supposed to pick up on and then sort it out, make it all fit. And could you imagine doing that? You're talking to people a lot of times, you can't see their facial expression. You're limited in so many ways in our communications. And so for the extra challenge that Commissioner Mejia's got is unbelievable. So, and I know she's probably not going to say that herself, but being I've been there and Ty's been there, I thought I'd just bring it up. She has got a real challenge on her hands, and doing very well, by the way. But I just think that if we can just make it through, get over it and get back to normal and all that, and then go on with our lives in a normal, somewhat normal process. I'll be tickled to death if we can just get there.
I think in whatever the new normal is.
Yeah, we don't even know what that new
right.
normal is. I mean, could you imagine being an investigator and trying to talk to a suspect or something like that? And we got these face masks and stuff on, you know, because facial expression is so much of communication. And here we are suffering through this now, but it's the way, it's kind of the new semi-normal, I guess.
I'm smiling.
Yeah,
I'm smiling
yeah,
here,
me too.
So.
I'm smiling. I'm enjoying the day. Every day's a bonus for me.
So, and I think that just getting into 21 and trying to find some level, and for any elected official, 2020 was a challenge. For brand new elected officials, it added that whole layer of learning the job and learning everything that needs to go, and then doing it in the middle of a global pandemic is, adding a layer of complexity that few people have ever had to deal with. So, congratulations on getting there. So, other than COVID and other than responding to COVID, what other areas do you, as a commission, want to focus on in the coming year? And granted, COVID is going to, color all of that, but it can't just be all COVID all the time. The county has to function. So what are the other things that you're interested in focusing on? And I'm not really sure where I am. Am I with Carolina or
Over
Commissioner
here.
Mejia?
So one of the things I'm really looking forward to is really seeing what we can do in the county. We just passed a racial justice, and seeing how we can keep building on that and improving and advancing forward. So that's one of the projects I'm really excited about that the county has taken up. So we'll see what comes.
Cool. Commissioner Edwards.
Well, if I had to pick one topic, I think that topic would probably be affordable housing. And we're never going to have affordable housing until we have adequate housing. And we've got urban flight from the larger jurisdictions, and then the teleworking, if you will. A lot of folks have figured out that they can live the American dream out here in rural or semi-rural America, maybe come home from Seattle or wherever, and live in the family house. Maybe one of the parents is deceased, and They can put a small auxiliary dwelling unit on the property, live in the family house, enjoy watching your kids grow up in that environment versus that urban environment. So we're going to have to accommodate that new move, if you will, from the urban core into at least the urban growth area of the local municipalities or into the rural part of the county. So we're going to have to do that and at the same time protect the environment. I believe it's doable. And the cost of housing, you know, about 1/3 of the cost of housing is government regulatory issues and taxes and waiting and fees and everything that goes along with it. So we're going to have some discussions on how to best accomplish that.
Okay. Commissioner Menser.
I'm going to pick an issue dear to my heart. Yesterday, the county commissioners passed an emergency resolution regarding climate action, climate change as a emergency issue. We adopted the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, which is a 2 or 3 years of work, putting this together between the 3 major cities and the county. And we adopted a interlocal agreement that will pledge the counties to, or the jurisdictions to work together for 1 more year, calling it Phase 3, basically setting up a long-term implementation structure. And I'm going to be representing the county on that committee, and I'm really excited about that because the strategies are very different in their nature. I mean, some of them involve maybe the county changes a code provision. Another thing might be creating maybe an incentive program for different types of green building. Another thing might be working with the legislature on higher level policy. So it's a multi-pronged strategy, and figuring out which ones to do first and how to get them all done when the clock is ticking is going to be a challenge. And I'm looking forward to that challenge, and I'm excited right now. I believe all the jurisdictions have adopted the plan, so we're ready to go forward.
Great. So full plate for the commission, always, and you know, with a few additional challenges thrown in. So as we wrap up our conversation, I'm going to come back here and start with Commissioner Edwards. Do you have anything else you would like to share with the viewers? Final comments or statements?
Well, if it's one thing that I learned as a commissioner here over the last 4 years is you've got to figure out an ability to have patience, because the process is quite extensive. There's a lot of protections built in, and I do think we're making headway. I'll just comment on the pocket gopher for an example. We've worked on that now for 4 years. I think it's our 4th iteration of a plan that's been submitted to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife folks, and we need to satisfy all their requirements. So we're kind of a sub-agent of a larger group that comes up with rules and regulations. We have to figure out ways to get through those. So we're hopeful that we're probably going to see some success later this year on the whole mitigation program for not just the gopher, but for prairie habitat in general. There's quite a few species involved. And I think we can pull it all together. So I'm optimistic. I'm kind of the eternal optimist anyway. I like to see the good and in whatever the outcome is going to be. So I think we're going to make it, and we're going to make it work, but just try to be patient as we go along, because boy, it's complicated, and now with the whole COVID thing, it's double complicated. Yeah. So looking forward to working with my seatmates and having some accomplishments for the benefit of the community.
Yeah, a former colleague of mine who sat as an elected official in his hometown used to say that exactly what you were talking about was trickle-down policy. Policy made someplace else, trickles down to the local level, needs to be implemented in some way, but, so, we appreciate your hard work on all of those things. So,
thank you.
Commissioner Menser, any final comments?
I would just, the 3 commissioners are also the county's Board of Health, and I have the pleasure and responsibility of being the chair of the Board of Health. So I'll circle back to COVID and just ask the community to, I know this has been a long marathon and exhausting and frustrating, but with the vaccines rolling out, and we're doing the best we can to get them rolled out, if folks can just continue to keep their foot on the pedal with social distancing, masking, washing hands, all those measures, it's going to make a big difference. The difference between what we do as the vaccine is rolling out is going to make a huge difference as to whether our businesses are open in the fall, kids' schools are back in sports, and all those things we want to see. I want to see those. My kids want to see them. We all want to see all that stuff. We need the community's help. So please do that for us.
Okay. And you get the final word today.
So I get the final word.
comments.
Well, for me, it's encouraging people to participate in our meetings, and that's Board of County Commissioners and also Board of Health. Now, you can actually Zoom in or call. You don't have to travel. So it's always nice to see people there and to hear what they have to say, and just for them to participate in local government. I also think it helps us as Board of County Commissioners to hear what the public has to say and what they're thinking about and what's on their minds. So please participate. Honestly, it's always great to see people there.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today. I know your schedules are busy, and it can be a real challenge to get everybody together in the same place at the same time. So we really appreciate you being here for this special edition of County Connection. And we want to thank you for joining us today. To watch more Thurston County programs like this one, go to the county's YouTube channel at the website below. There you can view county videos, live streaming board meetings, work sessions, and much, much more. And don't forget to watch repeats on TCTV Channel 3. From all of us here, we're glad you could join us. Thanks for watching, and be safe.